What's up, Eagles Nation? What's going on, NFL world? How you doing, Division Rivals? This is Steven Hyde here with Gate City Sports Channel, the sports channel where the cerebral NFL fan comes for about 10 minutes of daily content. All right, guys, today's topic. First off, good morning. What's going on, y'all? Monday morning. It's here, guys. So, some news is breaking, right? This isn't, the article called this like, oh, this was surprising. This wasn't surprising to me because I called it out. If you guys remember when I was doing the offensive line videos and I did like a little draft profile on some of the possibilities here and I talked about our offensive line, I got a lot of pushback from people who were like, yeah, but I mean, if you get Brandon Brooks back and you get Lane Johnson back, like, Kelsey, coming back, like, doesn't that completely change the outlook of the offensive line? And it's like, healthy? Yes, because that's arguably at least, we can say arguably, the best right side in the NFL. But Brandon Brooks is 32 and on a major contract. Lane Johnson is 31, and what's his third offseason in a row he's had this ankle issue? Like, you know what I'm saying, guys? Like, you gotta, like, this isn't that hard to project when you really know what's going on. The fact is that the Eagles really like Nate Herbig. The fact is the Eagles really like Jack Driscoll. So, to me, it's not surprising to hear that the Eagles have shopped Brandon Brooks a little bit and have taken rumors. Now, I'll get into some of the specifics of things to where it could be a little surprising, right? If you were to ask me if I thought that they would do this pre-June 1st, well, I mean, it depends on what kind of draft capital they're looking for, right? I mean, if you get a team that's just out there fishing for, like, multiple day 2 picks or even a day 1 pick, which I find hard to believe. Guys, I don't think they're going to get a day 1 pick for Brandon Brooks just because he's 32 and he's coming off of, I think now he's ruptured both of those Achilles tendons. Like, I can't see that. But if you were to get an offer of a day 2 pick, like a third-round pick or something, like, I'm sure they would have to consider it. But more than likely, Brandon Brooks strikes me as the type of guy that you would get a day 2 pick for, and then a day 3 picks, like a third and a fifth, or even two day 3 picks, like a fourth and a fifth. But to be honest with you, man, it only takes is to get over the evaluation I'm giving you guys. All it takes is to have more than one team interested, and all of a sudden, price tag goes up. Now, what I will say is this: if you look at the specifics of his contract, if you cut him, which is not going to happen, they're not going to cut Brandon Brooks, guys, because it's too expensive. If you cut him, you end up losing $8 million against the cap. The reason being is he's got like I said, guys, he's got a $10,400,000 base salary, right? And then he's got about $4 million or so in a prorated bonus, okay? The issue is that when you look at what his contract was when he re-signed this, guys, because the Eagles like to give players a lot of money through signing bonuses so that way they can prorate it to keep the cap number low, the downside to doing such a move, like, there's a lot of positives, because if you get a guy on the contract for like 5 years and the guy lives out the contract and he's a dominant guy like Brandon Brooks can be, it makes you look like a genius, right? Because you've lowered the cap number by giving them a lot of signing bonus money, and then you're allowed to prorate that signing bonus money so it never hits you in 1 year hard, unless you got to let the guy go. then you get hit hard, right? So if you cut him, you're automatically looking at basically having that dead money left on the contract being $22,650,707. That's pretty big compared to the $14 million, 14 and a half, let's just call it, cap number he has on the season. So that's your issue. If you were to trade him, you do get a little bit of savings, right? So if you trade him, what you end up finding out is that there's clearly some kind of like roster bonus and option money in his contract, and that stuff can be transferred to the acquiring team, the team that's trading for him. So that brings the dead money down. So if you trade him pre-June 1st, right, so you take all the dead money hit in this year. If you trade him that point, then the dead money goes down to $12,250,707. So drastic reduction, right? We're talking like a $10 million or so dollar reduction here in the dollars. So that brings you to basically a surplus, a cap surplus of $2,303,000, $528, guys. Not bad. That's a decent little cap savings, but you would probably want significant value for a Brandon Brooks level talent only to save $2 million, right? I mean, you can certainly probably come up with a way of talking with Brandon Brooks and restructuring his contract to get you more than $2 million, right? So that's why I said, like, that part of it is surprising. If they traded him prior to June 1st, that part would surprise me, right? That would genuinely surprise me. The part that doesn't surprise me, and the part that I was saying, guys, if you remember in one of those videos, I talked about guys that could potentially be traded at the roster cutback. So when the Eagles come out of August and we're shaping that 53-man roster, I said, hey, you really got to watch out for Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks to be potentially traded. But I said, even if they go into the season with Lane Johnson and Brandon Brooks, and you got, Herbig, and you got, Jack Driscoll as your main backups, you got Andre Dillard for the left side, like, you have this nucleus, right? You still have to be careful, because if the Eagles don't compete, let's be honest, a team that's in contention might really want a Lane Johnson or a Brandon Brooks. And just look at Brandon Brooks' contract and what happens if you trade him post-June 1st. If you trade him post-June 1st, because you can divide the dead money up over 2 years, so you only owe, if you trade post or you cut post-June 1st, either one of those options, what ends up happening is basically you only have to pay the dead money for this current year on this year, right? So that drastically lowers the dead money. And then the following year, you got to pay the remaining dead money for the rest of the contract, okay? So if they were to trade him at the trade deadline, his dead money comes down to $4,054,000. You weigh that against the $14.5 million he's got in base salary, guys. They're saving $10.5 million, $10,500,000 against the cap, and you're going to get picks back. You know what I mean? Like, Brandon Brooks is 32, guys. I mean, how much longer is he going to play at the level that we're used to seeing? And he's been sustaining a lot of those lower body injuries. Look, we all know the issue here. The issue here is that when Brandon Brooks is healthy, guys, Brandon Brooks he's a very good football player. Like, this is one of the best guards that I've watched in a long time. When I look at a guy like Brandon Brooks, he's like what we all thought Shane Andrews could be if he ever got it together. Brandon Brooks was that for the Eagles for a long, consistent, time. And then the injuries started mounting up over the last couple of years, right? These Achilles and stuff like that. And that's what's really, unfortunately, soured and derailed Brandon Brooks' kind of time here recently with the Eagles. The one thing I do know the Eagles are good at, guys, is identifying offensive line talent and getting guys in here for Stoutland to coach up. We've been very good at that. Now, I can tell you this. A healthy Brandon Brooks, do I think that guy's just out there somewhere? That's harder to believe, right? Brandon Brooks, when he was healthy and a little younger, this guy was like, he was on his game, guys. He was on the top of his game. There's no doubt about it. But age catches up with everybody. I guess that's kind of the rounding out, kind of ending thought process here, guys, is that age catches up with every player. And now here we sit with a 32-year-old Brandon Brooks on a $14.5 million cap number that if he's traded post-June 1st, you're talking about a $10.5 million savings plus the draft picks. I know you can say, like, yeah, but I mean, like, it's after June 1st, so, like, all free agencies are gone. Like, if the free agents are gone, like, you're also trading prior, after the draft, so you don't get those draft picks until the following draft. Right, but just think about how we restructured. Now, this is different, but we restructured Fletcher Cox's contract to give us, like, a $7 million, like, cap savings last year, right? Before the end of last year, we restructured it. And then we took that $7-some million, which totaled up with the rest of our cap savings to be like 20-some million, and we rolled that into 2021. You can do the same thing here, guys. You can take this $10.5 million if you don't have anywhere to spend that, right? The extra draft capital now you got for the following year's draft. You got $10.5 million as well. Now you can roll that money into the following season, guys. Like, it's about playing chess here, guys. It's about playing chess with the pieces on the board. I'm not surprised by this, guys. I read the article. I know that the authors of the article seemed quite surprised that Brandon Brooks had been mentioned in trade rumors. You followed the money. This was not surprising. This was almost a guarantee that the Eagles were going to at least listen to offers. Now, listen, does this mean that Brandon Brooks is traded? No, guys. Like, there still has to be an agreement upon the value that the Eagles see him as and the acquiring team see him as, right? Those two have to align. And let's be honest, you're dealing with a 32-year-old with, Achilles injuries on both feet. So I don't know that the way that the Eagles value this player might be the same as another team might value him. So this might just be a situation to where instead of trading him, they listen to some trade offers. It's not there, then they just restructure the contract for the cap savings, and he's back. I mean, that's very possible, but the issue with restructuring contracts, guys, as a lot of you guys have alluded to, is that you can keep restructuring, but at the end of the day, you eventually have to take the cap hit, right? Like, the dead money, it'll reduce itself because, like, obviously, if you have dead money on this current year and you have the player under contract and you do some things with his base salary to bring his cap hit down, then at least you've lost the dead money from this year, so the dead money goes down the following year. But the dead money doesn't just evaporate, guys. Like, it's still there. At some point in time, you got to rip the Band-Aid off. And, you know, the problem is with a lot of prorated money, if it's coming from the signing bonus, then you've already paid the player. So basically what you're doing is you're owing the league, not the player. You owe the league because you prorated it, right? You've set it down over a certain amount of years to basically balance out your books when it comes to the cap figure, guys. And that's kind of where we're standing at with guys like Brandon Brooks. Is like, if you can get the value for this guy, hey, man, I love Brandon Brooks. This is a really good football player. He's 32. Like, 2 Achilles injuries. You got young guys like Jack Driscoll. You got guys like Nate Herbig. We're pretty good at drafting guys and getting them developed. Do I think these guys will ever be Brandon Brooks at his height? Probably not. It's probably very unlikely. But, you know, you have to make these kind of moves at some point, guys. It's just the way these things kind of shake over time. And, you know, we've had a difficult time letting players go. Letting players go that we like a lot. You know, Howie's admitted that thought. All right, guys, that's all I got for y'all today. Don't forget to like, comment. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscription button. It does a whole lot for the channel, guys. Without anything else really to add to this situation, guys, I appreciate y'all tuning in, and I'll see y'all in the next video.